Hey everybody, it's Phony here once again. Hope you're doing well today. We are rambling about the SSF DivKid Rnd Step. It is a 4 HP analog noise source, but most importantly, it's a sample and hold circuit, a source of randomness, a clocked one at that with cascading triggers and a bunch of different outputs across 3 channels, and it sounds like this. Okay, so a little piece of context for this one before I get started with it. I have the QVL as the quad variable LFO. I was hoping that would sort of be my sample and hold module, but I want to really dedicate it to just focusing on LFOs. I don't want to put any headaches, any barriers between me and as many LFOs as possible. I just want to have them clocked. I just want to spread them all over the system. So I figured it'd be a good idea to pick up a dedicated sample and hold module, but because it has its own analog noise source on board, you don't have to send it one. You can just use it as a clocked random source, which is awesome. I really appreciate that, and we're going to do that just now to start it off. Now, going through the panel at the same time, I'm just going to send it a clock. Okay, let's scope the output of the first channel, and I'll go over the panels. So we have 3 different channels. In the first one, the second one, and the third one, they are all the same circuits, basically, but 3 times. However, you do get some cascading of the trigger in, so I only have to clock the module once at the top, which is very appreciated, and then I get 3 channels and 6 outputs of, on the left, positive only voltage, which you'll see on the screen now, or positive and negative bipolar voltage, which you can see on the screen now. So nice thing, all of these cascade, so I get all unique different voltages across 3 different channels, which is super sweet, giving me 6 outputs. But if I don't like what's going on in the internal pink noise that's generated uniquely across the 3, I can also just patch into the sample input and forego that. Let's scope that part. So, and again, like the classic uses for random modulation, I don't need to reintroduce to you, but I am going to take an LFO here of a triangle wave, and you'll see it cycling, and we're basically turning it into stepped voltages here, which is useful depending on what your use case is where you're sending this. But you see, if we just clock in instead the source that's coming in, it looks like this. Oh, that's way too high, isn't it? Let's do a slower LFO so this can be easier to see. You see a slow LFO and a triangle wave coming across here. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. If we instead sample that into the random step, we're going to basically sample, hold it, and because it's analog, it's going to store it in a diode or a transistor. You'll know the specifics of that. I won't, but if we put it in here now, you'll see we've basically taken that and not smoothed it out, but done the opposite. We've chopped it into stair steps to make it into step modulation, which is super sweet. Now this is the positive and negative one. If we switch over just to the positive output, I believe it's going to be the same wave shape, but it's going to basically like stop at 0. Yeah, so consider when it comes to that like it isn't the same thing but positive or bipolar, you know what I mean? This is a completely different type of modulation over the same waveform is the thing that I kind of want to drive home when it comes to that, right? And it is nice how it indicates it on the panel, the negative being the green and the positive being the red. It's easy to just see how the different steps are jumping around, basically. Now, I will say, I think that's a little bit backwards in my mind. I would think positive would be green and negative would be red, but it doesn't matter. It's just like you see the blinking lights and you know how much voltage is coming out of the thing, basically. And that, I know I kind of say that in a funny way, but that is everything you need to know. That is that is what modulation is. It can be any source. I showed you a demonstration of that right now with our LFO turning into step modulation. I'll unpatch that, so we'll go back to the internal random source. I will go into the positive output only, and then maybe for fun we're going to do some patching. Let's listen to some stuff. So to start off, I'm going to do Earthquaker, Wave Transformer into... what are we going to do today? Let's do Excalibur just because it's close, and then we'll listen to it out in mono. The first output, and then that can go into the interface. In goes that, and listening to that now. Yeah, okay. So just to demonstrate what's going on here, we're using the internal sampling. We're using the sampling of the internal noise source, so you just see it bouncing around right here. Same thing's going on the scope. Now, if I take the output that we're scoping, you'll see me patch it into the data there. What if I use that to, I don't know, change the tune through exponential FM? So you can just hear how our sampling's changing it, right? If we go over to the positive and negative one, how does that change? I use this FM one as an example because it will take positive and negative voltages, but again, consider if you are modulating other things that only take positive voltage, that using this negative voltage only is going to lose you some range on that front, right? So consider what you're sampling in. Maybe you want to either trigger it more often. Let's try and do that. What if we trigger every step so you get crazy randomness all of the time? Filter's coming off a little bit. Turn me up. And yeah, about as musical as a brick in the face, but what if we modulate something else? Let's pitch that down a hair. Open our filter up a little bit. I'll attenuate that. What if we do volt per octave in? No, this is a frequency attenuator. So we can just do some random stepping of that, right? I know, this is like the most boring patch ever, but what if that was for, I don't know, our VCA? Or we've basically introduced random gating of our entire synth voice by using this for that. Now, on the same side of the coin, we could also use a different modulation source and just start patching in things. Let's do another random source to the resonance of this one. And I attenuated it on board so it shouldn't go super crazy, but maybe let's just do turn up the drive a little bit so you can hear it, but then we're going to get some popping around. Let's go positive and negative. Oh, so this will take negative voltage on the side of the Excalibur, so it's cool to hear. I know, this is like the least musical thing ever, but I feel like this is hopefully valuable for demonstrating what random voltage can do. Now, this will accept audio in, but I was kind of confused about it, I guess is the word, about how this would actually work. So what happens if I forego my... Here, let's take my output here. Let's go positive and negative. Take the output of the random step and run it straight into my mixer. If we're taking... So you'll hear right now, we're just listening to this output with no input that's taking the cascaded trigger in. Just hear some popping of modulation. But if we if we sample in the output of Excalibur, what happens then? I think what happens on the random step is it's limiting it into usable modulation spots, right? Because you can't use it for audio in. It can support up to audio rate. I'll show you in 1 second, but when you sample in audio, it will basically use it as a modulation source. So if I scope the other side of it that we're not listening to, you'll see we've turned our synth voice into a little bit of step modulation because it's just sampling it. And I thought that was interesting because I thought you could use this to like sample audio too, because it is AC coupled, I believe, but it doesn't work in the like sampling audio and holding sort of realm, if I am not mistaken, unless I'm doing something wrong. If I am doing something wrong, you let me know in the comments, but if I sample this less often, maybe we have a longer sample set to listen to. In comes the output of our synth again. Yeah, so same thing. Now what will happen if we audio rate modulate this whole thing? So we'll take a triangle wave from my mind phaser and put that in the trigger input, and then you can sort of turn this into a crazy oscillator of its own, which I know, to be honest with you, Eurorack videos a lot of times, they always like love to show off like super obscure fun things you can do with modules that I like would never do in my own patches, but I do think this is actually a really interesting source of like creating audio noise by sending audio rate to this to create a really unique oscillator, right? Maybe I'm becoming the thing that I was just complaining about, and that's okay. Like Bob Ross or something, being like, you know what? One day you're cringe, and then you wake up and another day you're old and cringe. Okay. So audio rate in. I am sampling the Excalibur. If I switch the onboard sound, it does sound different too, which is actually really interesting. So you can sample and hold in an audio way, but you also have to trigger it. You also have to trigger it at an audio rate. And I actually really like how this sounds. So how slow can we go? Alliteration not intended, until it stops being an audio rate. That's interesting. I was talking in Discord recently about, we were talking about envelopes at audio rate, how there's a way to do them, and I'm not convinced this is true, but there's a way to listen to envelopes at audio rate without cycling them a million times. But in the case of the random step, that doesn't appear to be the case. And I know it's not an envelope, but I'm just trying to project my misunderstandings about everything. If you want to join that confusing conversation, join the Discord, because there are many confusing conversations to be had. So listen here now. You don't hear anything right now because it's out of audio range, I think. Yes. I don't know if yes was out of audio range, but when I'm sampling audio in, you have to trigger it at audio rate. So watch me, we're just going to zoom out a hair, watch me adjust the mind phaser into faster territory, and then it becomes this crazy thing. And I love mangling audio in this way. This is not how I intend to use the random step, but I do actually think this is interesting enough to check out. It's funny, the more time I spend with Eurorack and the more I actually understand it more, the more I find I'm actually like interested in just like trying to destroy it, if that makes any sense. Like when I knew even less about what I was doing than I do now, I felt like I was just trying to like get a grasp on how to make basic things happen. And now that I kind of understand things more, I'm like trying to, I don't know, glitch oscillators with FM or make an oscillator out of a sample and hold circuit. Now it is analog, so hopefully this doesn't damage it in some way, but it sounds so good. I don't even... This is complex oscillator. Now what if I swap this, so I'll sample in this oscillator that we're listening to, and I don't know, we'll send in the other oscillator in here. And I'd be curious how much this really differs from onboard FM even, right? Or phase modulation, I should say. Because it's sampling the amplitude, not the pitch, obviously, right? But, sorry, it's called Rambling About for a reason. Really cool. Now I won't get hung up on that all video as much as I'd like to. We'll unpatch that. And again, you can push that noise into audio territory. Not that you can't hear it popping right now, but you can push that noise into audio territory by triggering it at audio rates. And it doesn't affect the pitch, but it sort of affects how the pink noise sounds. So there's a pink noise source on board, and you can totally use that as a pink noise source elsewhere in your rig, right? Now, what if we put a noise source on a noise source? Yo, dog, I heard you like noise. So I sampled noise into noise to sample it at audio rate, not at noise, but maybe it should be noise. Oh, we're getting into square wave territory. because I'm oversampling it? No. Anyway, if you're a mad scientist who actually knows what they're talking about and not me here, I'm using a triangle wave too. Maybe if we use sinus, it'll change the tone? Nope. Nope. Having too much fun. This isn't what you're here for. What you're actually here for, or what you probably want to do with the random step, is do something more traditional. So I think I'll use this opportunity to play us out with basically just using all 6 outputs to modulate some drums, to do the random proverbial step, as it were, to, you know, use it as a normal human would. And I think in all honesty, that was fun to explore, but like the beauty of it and what I really love about it is just the simplicity of 3 channels of random modulation with a random source on board, all 3 of them to sample from. So I really appreciate that random step. Awesome compact utility. I'm Tafony. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, like, comment, subscribe, do all that crap that YouTube is always on my case but not promoting to you, and I'll see you in the next video.